Okay, Jenny.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Angus Licensing Board. As this is the first meeting of the board since the recent council elections, board members must now appoint a convener. I would therefore invite, as Assistant Clerk, invite nominations for convener. Right.
Thank you. I would like to nominate Councillor Darnell for convener.
And do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? Councillor Brays?
No.
In that case, can I ask whether there's agreement to Councillor Darnell's appointment as convener?
Agreed.
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 Thank you. In that case, Councillor Darnell, I hand over to you as convener.
Thank you very much and welcome everybody to our first meeting. I just want to thank Councillor Fotheringham and Councillor Moore, who's obviously not here, for all the work they have done over the last few years, and I really hope I'll be able to come up to the same standard of work that they have, and I really hope I'll still have Councillor Fotheringham's support on this one.
Absolutely, convener, sorry to butt in, but you've got my full support anytime. No problem at all.
Thanks, Grave. In light, sorry, things just went off. In light of Councillor's intended to resign from the board due to the workload and other civic duties, the board not having a fully competent member, I would propose that the post of vice convener not be filled at present and deferred for consideration of the board at the next meeting on the 18th of August. Is that agreed by everybody?
Agreed.
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 That's great, thank you. Now we'll move on to apologies for absence. Do we have Councillor Melville come in yet?
Yes, there's no apologies, convener.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thanks. Do our declaration of interest, because it's quite a big room today. Do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Brays, Kenny, have you still got your hand up, or is this a new hand?
No, thank you, convener. This is specifically not a declaration of interest, but I just wanted, in the interests of transparency, regarding item 7, specifically E, the Ardbeke Distillery Visitor Centre. The Stirling family are very well known to me, but there's no relationship that would cause me, or I believe a member of the general public, any concerns about my ability to make a reasoned decision in this matter.
That's great. Thank you. Sorry, I just forgot to welcome the new members of our team. We have got Kenny Brays, Councillor Kenny Brays that's just spoken. We have Councillor Ross Gregg, and we have Councillor Jill Scott, Councillor Linda Clark, and Councillor Lloyd Melville. I just want to welcome you all to the team, and just to say that this is a great team to get the hang of it, but I think you'll enjoy it once you've been on it a wee while. Okay. Now we've got the Angus and Licence Board membership. The board is asked to note that the membership is shown on the covering letter to this agenda, so that's just for noting. Minutes of the previous meeting. Can I have someone who was on the last meeting on the 24th of March?
Agreed, convener.
Right, thank you, Craig. Thanks. Okay. New premises licenses under the Licensing Act 2005. The first one we've got up to date is NISA Local. I'm just wondering, is the clerk, Fiona, are you going to talk on this, or is there any persons for talking on this application?
I think at present there is no one indicated that they're attending from NISA. If there is anyone in the meeting that's talking on this application, could you please unmute yourself? Okay. I've had no indication there's anyone coming today, convener, for this application.
Okay, is the licensing officer available at the moment just to discuss this one?
Yes, I'm here, Councillor Durno.
Let's see. Oh, there you are, Nikki. I couldn't see your picture.
I'm here. I'm turning my picture off in between because I'm getting connection issues. So I've been told to turn my camera off between speaking, if that's okay.
Yeah. I only had concerns I had with this one was on your report that you had there hadn't been an awful lot of contact with them, and that their license finished. I think it was the 22nd of May. Was that right?
Yes, that's right. They've been running on occasionals and it finished then. And like everybody else, I'm struggling to get in contact with the people. It's a Mr. Siam Mohammed. But on further consideration of this application, it's come to light that the layout plan that they submitted doesn't comply with the Premises Licence Scotland Regulations 2007. The layout plan must follow certain criteria and it doesn't at the moment. So I think, I don't know what everyone else thinks, but maybe this is one that could be deferred until we get the layout plan sorted. At the moment, there's too many display areas.
Yeah.
Showing on the plan.
Craig, you had your hands up first, I think, before Beth.
Beth's shown as number one, Councillor.
All right, okay. These money faith councillors, you know. Beth, do you want to come in on this, please?
Yeah, thanks, convener. I was just going to concur with Nikki and suggest that we defer this one till we've got all the facts.
Sorry to interrupt. Nikki, could I double check with you? Is it this one with the layout plan? I thought it was Smithy's. No,
it's come to light, Fiona, this one as well.
Okay.
It was late last night. Sorry, I never had a chance to tell you. Apologies.
That's right. No, that's okay.
Could I just ask Craig, while you're here in this situation, if they have licensed products in the shop at the moment, what happens with this? Craig or Nikki, I mean, is there something?
Can I just jump in? Well, yeah. Because they were running on occasionals, they were allowed to have alcohol, but their occasionals ran out, so they shouldn't be selling alcohol. I haven't been able to get up to the premises yet, but I don't know whether it's something that I could check on my next visit when I'm out and about to see that the alcohol has been covered up or removed.
Yeah, that being in the situation, is this something that, you know, if someone goes in there this morning and buys a bottle of Bacardi or whatever, will they be, you know, will the police have anything to say about this?
Well, they don't have a licence, so it would be a criminal offence.
So it's something.
I think Councillor Fotheringham has his hand up.
Yeah, Craig, can you come in and
yeah, thank you, convener. No, I was just going to agree with what Councillor Whiteside said. I think in view of what the LSO, Mrs. Corletto, has said, that I move that we defer this to the next meeting of the board or whenever the relevant information is available. Thank you.
That's great. And Nikki, can you inform anybody or phone the premises and ask them to cover up their goods at the moment?
Yeah, I'll liaise with police and the licence holder.
That's brilliant. Thank you, everybody, for advising me on that one. Okay. Right, okay. We'll move on to the next one now. This is the distillery. Yes.
Yes, we have got Anna Robertson to speak on this one. There is no objections, and the LSO officer has suggested additional conditions should the board be minded to grant. Okay, so Mrs. Robertson's in the meeting.
Thanks. Mrs. Robertson, do you want to talk about the distillery just now?
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning. Thank you for seeing us. Yeah, so we are just a small craft distillery, and we're based at the base of Finavon Hill in a small cluster of houses. The distillery is, hopefully shows on the map, is located to the edge of the cluster of houses and is quite isolated from anyone else. And it's just a small double garage that we are using for, or hoping to utilise for, sort of online sales and distributions of our craft gin. So it's a kind of hand-foraged botanical gin.
That's great. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? for the applicant? Any of the Forfar Bleaching councillors have any questions or anything? Anna? No? Everybody quite happy with this one?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah?
Yes, well done.
Right.
Thank you.
Anna. Looks like
So-
you've got
So
your
could I ask, convener, sorry, could I ask if the board, if you're minded to grant, if you're agreeing to the additional 5 conditions that are detailed in the report?
Agreed.
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 Agreed. Agreed.
Okay.
Can I just clarify also that the applicant is agreeable to those conditions?
Yes, absolutely. We've seen them and are agreeable.
That's great. Thank you very much for attending today, and welcome to the licensing world.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bye.
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 Now, I think the next report is premises licenses requested to vary under the Licensing Act. These are... They're just for noting, aren't they? Can someone check? Yeah, they're just for noting.
No, the first one is Nando's convener, 1
Yeah.
Arbroath Road, Forfar. And they're for the board to consider. If new members want to go back to page 20 on their papers, they'll see there's 3 recommendations, either to grant the application, to defer the application, or to refuse the application. So the first one is Nando's, and the lady Laura, I think, is here to speak on this one. There's no objections, and the premises has received Rose consent for the outdoor area. Okay, convener.
Yeah, thank you. Does the applicant want to speak a wee bit about what she's planning to do outside in the area?
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Good morning. Yeah, we are. Thank you very much. So basically, we just wanting to have to place a external area where we can sell and just to offer an extra service. We are going to serve drinks and food if the weather will be good. So it was just to offer an extra service. We are an Italian cafe restaurant, and I don't know if you need to know anything else, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, thank you for that. The plans are quite, graphic. We can actually see where you're planning to put it outside. I'm aware of where the plan is, but is there any of the Forfar councillors have any concerns or anything about the situation in the road here, or do you think this is okay? Do you have any comments? Councillor Clark, do you want to come in and just give us a wee...
Thank you very much, Chair, and I hope everybody can hear me. I'm not very well at the moment. But just to say that I don't know whether we should mention it at this point in the meeting, but I'm in full agreement with it. It's granted. I'm in full agreement with it. I think it's a lovely idea. Wish the person all the very best. But I would just really like to make a small concern in that we wouldn't want to have music in the external drinking area, because that then would be difficult. So it's a kind of busy junction there. But other than that, I don't have any qualms at all. Thank you, Chair.
Greg?
Thank you, convener. I just wanted to ask the applicant, within relation to where the tables are going to be, are those going to be fixed to the ground, or are they going to be movable? I just asked, in previous experience when I've worked in licensed premises with outdoor seating very close to curbs and things, then quite a lot of the time the people that are sitting there tend to move those tables and chairs so that they stay in the sun. So just wondering how you'd sort of deal with that.
Okay, we got the picnic benches, so they are all fixed together, and we are trying to find a way to also get stable on the floor, on the pavement. I don't want that to be movable. I prefer they stay in a place. They will be also quite heavy to move, so they are all attached, so nobody can touch. We are doing in a way that cannot be movable from the people.
Yeah.
Okay, so will that be regularly supervised by either yourself or your staff?
Yes, we got a camera, CCTV cameras, and I got a screen at the till, so I can see everyone that enter or that sit. The customer will be asked to enter the restaurant to get their order, and we are going to get outside. But I can monitor that area all day long, so I can see everything from the screen inside.
Wonderful, thank you for that.
No way.
Councillor Fotheringham's got a question as well.
I think mine's is more a comment, convener, but I think Mrs. Burns is number one. She might want to come in.
Right, sorry, I can't see Mrs. Burns here on my screen.
I'll come back for a comment if I can, convener.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it was just a point. It was just to clarify that the applicant is actually the company Linart Shepherd Limited, and I had understood that there might have been a representative from them actually attending today. I understand that we have heard from the business who operate the premises rather than the actual applicant. So it was really just to clarify whether there was anybody from the actual applicant present.
Thank you for that, Jennifer. The other concern that I have...
I think, sorry, Mrs. Burns, Mr. Shepherd, I think, has given full permission for Laura to deal with the application today.
That's great. Thanks, Fiona. As I said, this will obviously, the only concern I have, it's not licensing matter, is that this has to go also to the roads department as well. And we have had issues before where we have allowed the license for outside, and then the roads are not happy with the situation. So as far as we're concerned, there's no problems here with the license, Sir Nicky, for going ahead, and then the roads will take that up themselves. Is that correct, Nicky?
I think Councillor Dunno, roads permission has been granted, so I don't think there's any issues there. And can I just say, in regard to Councillor Clark's comment about no music, that's one of the conditions I've put on, which the applicant has agreed in regard to the external conditions.
That's brilliant, Nicky. Well, good to go, if that's okay with everybody. Everyone has Craig on mic. Am I doing something wrong here? Want to come in?
Yeah, no, it's just a comment, convener. This, as you know, I live in Forfar. I know this business, well run, and it's good to see it. And there's no objections here. And with the conditions that the licensing standards officer has suggested, then I would move that we grant this application. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, definitely with that. Thanks for that. Is this approved by everybody now? Grant approved. Okay. Yeah. Approved. Okay, thank you very much, Laura. That's you sorted, and we'll maybe pop in past. Thank you.
Okay, then can I just ask one thing? Sorry.
Yes.
Just to understand how it works, I'm already allowed to carry on with this project, or do I have to receive any paper from you that allow me to start placing the table outside?
Okay, Nicky, can you advise Laura on that?
Yeah, Laura, your licence will follow in due course, but you're allowed to trade. It's an immediate grant, so you're allowed to do as of now.
Okay, thank you very much for everything. Thank you. Have a lovely day. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And next on our list is Smithies in Kepty Street, Arbroath. Is applicant Patricia Smith here today?
The applicant
is here.
Yes, there's
in the background.
Okay.
Thanks. Would you like to speak on your application for your what you're amending at the licence?
So what we're amending in our licence is we're wanting to increase the display area within the shop, and with hopefully extending next door to be able to do table service next door in a seated area that's marked on the plans.
Okay, that's great, thank you. Nikki has advised that she wants to talk to you about the specific areas of the layout. Is that correct, Nikki?
Yeah, it came to light again yesterday that the layout plan doesn't comply with the premises licence regulations again. The previous layout plan obviously had 2 licensed areas, one which was inaccessible to the public and one which was accessible, which is allowed. But this plan is showing there's going to be 6 areas. I have spoke with Patty about it and we said we'd discuss it today, but we can't have 6 licensed areas for display, so we'll have to come round and try and amend that before you determine the application. I understand there's also toilet provision and ventilation problems, but I think that's building standards that would be speaking to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if Jenny wants to come in on this, but
yeah.
sorry, I missed what you said.
Thanks. Do the board want to have any questions to the applicant about this layout large thing? Yeah, Craig, can you come in now? Thanks.
Thank you, convener. It was actually to building standards, which Nikki's mentioned. Can we hear from them what their concerns are and how this can be resolved? Thank you.
Do we have any?
Yes, hi, it's Lee Tom here.
Hi,
good morning, convener. Yeah, obviously, this application includes converting 2 properties into one, which includes a slapping in the internal wall at ground floor to create an opening between them. During the licensing consultation phase, we raised that a building warrant would be required for this, which has since been applied for, although the legal declaration on the application stated the works have not yet started, which would be useful to have clarification on. In order for us to issue a completion certificate for the works, we would require to assess the application, approve it, carry out any inspections, and issue the completion certificate. This would include ensuring there's adequate sanitary facilities and accessible facilities in place for the numbers applied for. The application is still awaiting assessment by one of our officers. However, I'd note it's still within the Scottish Government target dates, but we do have a concern over the number of toilets for the increase in the number of persons from 7 to 36, I believe.
Yeah. Is the board minded maybe that we should defer this one until the building works and all the relevant things are, in place?
Yeah, I think that would be wise given the outstanding issues.
Yeah. Because obviously it's going to take a little while to get everything sorted out in the building anyway. So it's not as if they'll be selling drink from that area at the moment anyway. Is that agreed by everybody in the board?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Just to it's Beth that's on the call just now. Beth,
Yeah.
we really feel we want to get everything in place before we can move this variation. It's not
just wait to say, so on our original license, it was provision for 24, and basically what we are doing to explain to you guys is that we are leaving the shop. It's going to be completely shop, and all of our seating's moving next door. So it's it sounds, I don't know where 7 came from, but as say on our premises license that we've held since 2000, it was we had enough room for 24 in the existing shop. The idea is to expand obviously the shop bit and make next door all of our seating. So it's so we'll still have obviously a disabled accessible, wheelchair accessible toilet, and we have an extra toilet as well. So we have 2 existing toilets, one which is fully wheelchair accessible at the moment.
Right, that's great. Thanks for that information. Craig?
Can we get clarity, because Beth's mentioned on our license or operating plan there's 24 capacity, But the LSO, I'm sure if I'm corrected, I stand corrected,
That's
mentioned 7. So can we have clarification? Is it 7 or is it 24? I think we need that before we.
Yeah. I'd
Sorry,
say the
I
license
haven't
that I
mentioned
haven't.
7. It was building standards that mentioned 7, Councillor Fotheringham.
right.
Oh, so my apologies. I knew somebody did, but can we get clarification? Is it 7 or is it 24?
I'm just trying to get the old license, the previous license up as we speak, so the system takes a while.
Yeah, this is all failed, so this won't affect the license that's in place at the moment.
I'm not sure whether Tracy Candy can answer about capacity. Oh, wait a minute, I'm just getting a message here. The license is currently 25 on the license that stands at the minute.
Right.
And she wants to increase, obviously, to 36.
Yeah, another 11 people. Beth, do you want to come in now?
Thanks, convener. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
it was
sorry,
just-
we've
it
got
was
two
just obviously-
Beths.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
That's okay, we've got two Beths. I'll say Councillor Whiteside, that'll make it easier for you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I think given the issues with building standards, regardless of the number of people on the licence presently, I think we need to get clarity around the building standards issues and the toilet facilities before we get that. And that's why I think we should defer this at the present time.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. Beth, it's just the other Beth, it was just technicalities at the moment and getting everything sorted out so that it's easier to put your variation
Yeah.
through. So if you kind of
we
bear,
did-
sorry.
Yeah. So when we did the visit with environmental health, we obviously took them into next door as it is existing sort of thing, and they provisionally, I think it's possibly in their report that they did, that they wanted 2 walls and 2 doorways in between this existing staff toilet to obviously be near to food props, like food prep areas sort of thing. So obviously for food safety and all the rest of it, it just made sense because it's a tiny little staff toilet at the back.
Yeah,
Sort of thing, as they.
Yeah, it's great to see your business expanding, and you know, after COVID and everything, a lot of licensed have had problems, and it's really great to see that you're expanding and going to have more
Thank you.
things. But as I say, if we can just get all the technicalities fixed and finished, and then it'll go through a lot smoother. So we'll defer this until the next meeting. Will that be enough time?
Convener, Mrs. Burns has her hands up, and so does Councillor Brace.
Sorry, I'm too busy talking. I'm not noticing these little hands.
That's okay. I think
yeah,
Mrs. Burns is number 1 in the hands.
Right, thanks for that, Fiona. Mrs. Burns.
Yes, can I just clarify that the outstanding matter of a fresh layout plan will need to be attended to, given the discrepancies that the Licensing Standards Officer has pointed out with respect to the display areas.
Right, thank you very much for that. And Councillor Brace?
Well, that's what I wanted to bring up, the layout plan. But I would just say to Ms. Smith, it seems to me that you know, you're not far away from this. Everything seems doable, and I think it's really appropriate to defer this, and I hope you'll seek every advice you can get from the LSO to help you achieve what you want to achieve as quickly as possible.
Yeah, as I say, we're flexible enough that we understand now, after it being brought to our attention, that it does look, and there is a possibility of continuation. It seemed to be the continuation that seemed to be the issue, but we do actually have a high shelf going all the way around the shop that actually connects what looks like in the original building. It looks like 3 separate areas, but there is shelving that actually continues all the way along.
That's brilliant. Nikki, will you be able to work with Beth Smith on this one so we can get this done as soon as possible?
Yeah, I will. I'll be in touch. I'll be in touch, Beth.
That's great.
Thank you so much, Nikki.
Okay.
No problem.
Right, so we're deferring this one. Is that agreed by everybody?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, and we'll let you go now, Beth. Not
Thank
Councillor.
you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time today, folks.
Right. Bye. Okay, we're moving on to the Spar store in Barry Road, Carnoustie. Do we have anybody from CJ Lang on this one, Fiona?
We've got the convener, the agent, Michael McDougall is present and wishes to address the board. There's no objections to this application, and the LSO, should the board be minded to grant it, has suggested 5 additional conditions.
Okay, thanks. Does the applicant want to speak on this, or are we okay with this one? Or Nikki, do you want to come in now?
Yeah, could I come in? I have asked for 5 conditions, but I've had communication with Mr. McDougall, and we've agreed to remove the final condition about the notice. Michael will explain more in his presentation to you, but CJ Lang have a facility that they don't put labelling on the packaging because they have another system, and I'm happy for that one to be removed if you're minding to grant.
Okay, thank you. Is Michael on the call here?
Yes, Convener, I'm here and happy to address you a wee bit further on this one.
Welcome to licensing board. Yeah, could you just give us a brief outline of what's happening with this one?
Of course, Convener, happy to do so. Like Ms. Coletto alluded to, the conditions are accepted with the exception of one, and I'll just touch on that very briefly. Just by way of background, CJ Lang, I'm sure, will be familiar to your honours. We're a family business that operate over 300 Spar stores across Scotland. I'm not aware of this store causing your honours or police any problems, and in fact I'm pleased to say that's the case for all Spar stores throughout Scotland from a CJ Lang point of view. The application itself, I'd suggest, is largely a tidy up and a refinement of the operating plan. In the aftermath of the pandemic, it was decided to review all of the CJ Lang licences to make sure we're consistent, and also we included permission for home deliveries. Your honours will understand that the pandemic has really sped up changes to customer behaviour, especially from sort of expectation around home deliveries. In terms of the home deliveries themselves, like I say, conditions accepted with exception of condition 5. Condition 5 required labels to be attached to packages. However, the system CJ Lang use, Snappy Shopper, it's a well-known platform that's used by various companies throughout Scotland. The platform has a way whereby the phone used by a driver flags up when alcohol is included in the package, and it automatically prompts for your due diligence requirements such as challenge 25. And in fact, whoever's challenge 25, it goes through, tells the driver what ID is acceptable. If ID is checked, you have to enter in the date of birth, etc. So there's, I would suggest, robust due diligence there. The rest of the variation, I suggest, incorporates activities that are very much in keeping with the operation of a modern convenience store. Given there's no objections or adverse comments, I've moved grant, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Does anyone have it? Pretty straightforward, this one. Have you got any hands up? I'm just making sure. Councillor Forward hand, do you want to come in here, Craig?
It's not a question, convener. Yeah. If there's no questions, can I make a comment? No, I think this is all within policy. There's no objections here. An excellent run business. I know CJ Lang very well, and I move that we grant with the conditions that the Licensing Standards Officer has suggested 1, 2, 3, and 4, but omitting condition number 5. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Councillor Fornham. With that, is that agreed by everybody on the board?
Agreed.
Okay. Thank you very much, Michael, and hope we see you some other time. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Your Honour. Thank you.
Bye. We're whizzing through these today. We're bound to get a stumbling block in a wee while. We're going too fast today, I think. Now we're on to the Stag Hotel in Castle Street in Forfar. The applicant is Graham Campbell, on and off sales. Do we have Mr. Campbell here today?
Convener, we have Susan Campbell. There's no objections to this application, and should the board be minded to grant, the LSO officer has suggested 3 additional conditions. but Mrs. Campbell's in the meeting.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Susan Campbell on this one? No? No for councillors want to ask any questions or anything? Any comments? Dave, do you want to come in?
Just again, thank you, convener. There's no issues here. It's a well-run premise. I know it well. And with the conditions that Mrs. Corletto has suggested, I move that we grant this application. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, convener, and my colleague, Councillor Foringham-Clegg has said it before me. I know this premise as well, and I'd just like to wish them all the very best. And considering what the LSO has said, can't see any reason why we shouldn't grant with what she has said. And again, wish them all the very best.
That's great. Thank you, Councillor Clark. Excuse me, I've got a puppy down here. I might have to put her outside.
Sorry, convener, do you want to just check with Mrs. Campbell? She's happy with the outside conditions as she's on the call. I think Mrs. Campbell, are you there?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm happy with everything.
That's great. Thank you very much. And I hope the weather stays nice for you.
I hope so. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Okay. This one agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. Thank you very much. Excuse my background noise here. Now we're moving on to Beaky Distillery. Oh, I'm getting an echo here.
Good morning, convener. Sorry, it might be from me as I just took my microphone off. It's Anne McKeown from Thornton's.
Morning, Anne.
Susan Campbell.
Oh. So I think that's Mrs. Campbell leaving the meeting, I take it.
Is now exiting.
Also on the call is my client John Sterling, who's a director of our Beaky Distilling Limited, the applicant company.
That's
so maybe Mr. Sterling could just confirm his attendance. I think his initials are at the bottom of the screen.
Yes, I'm here. Thanks. Morning, everyone.
John, do you want to talk on a wee bit more about the visitor centre?
Sorry. Yeah, yes, of course. So this is actually an application to vary a provisional licence in respect of these premises granted award back in November 2020. It's a brand new purpose-built visitor centre adjacent to our Beaky Distillery, which I'm sure everyone present will be well aware of. Our Beaky now being a very well-established brand, not just locally in Scotland, but I would submit globally. First of all, can I just thank the board for agreeing to hear this application today, exercising the discretion available to it in terms of section 1351 of the Licensing Scotland Act. Just by way of background, the background to the requirement for this application was that the development of this project was delayed quite considerably due to the pandemic. I think initially the applicants had hoped it might be open by the end of November the end of the year 2020, but due to the pandemic, the lockdowns and the well-publicised shortages of materials and construction resource, it was delayed considerably, but they used that time to good purpose and effect. And during the delayed process, they introduced a number of changes to the layout of the premises as detailed in the application. In doing so, they considered these to be cosmetic in nature to enhance the facility and hadn't appreciated that this would trigger the need for a major variation application, but that was of course quickly identified when the confirmation application was submitted to the board by my firm under cover of a letter dated 20th April 2022. The proposed changes are as set out in the application, and I'll summarise them briefly as follows. Firstly, in relation to the operating plan, at section 5F, the removal of the reference to the private tasting rooms. So these areas have been removed, and it's the first floor has been opened up just to create an open plan area on the first floor, and also the capacity figure has been reduced from 276 to 228, and that's been done in consultation with building standards. And that figure represents 128 on the ground floor and outside area and combined, and then 100 on the first floor level. And then secondly, there are a couple of amendments to the layout plan. On the ground floor, the left-hand side alcohol display area has been changed from a straight line to a semi-curve. The offices on the right-hand side have been removed, and the bar area has been turned into an L shape. In the original plan, it was a straight line. And then on the first floor, the bar area on the top right-hand side has been turned 90 degrees to be more central. And as already mentioned, the private tasting rooms have been removed to make the first floor public space open plan and design. So I think that summarises the changes. The premises were passed as complete by building standards end of April, start of May, and the premises have been successfully trading since then under a series of occasional licenses which have been granted by this board, the first of which was granted on the 2nd of May. So I think really that covers everything in relation to the application itself. I understand that there have been no objections or comments made, and I would be moving approval of the application. There's maybe just two other sort of preliminary, ancillary matters just to mention. Firstly, assuming that the major variation is granted, the provisional licence still needs to be confirmed. So I'm not sure if that's something which the board will deal with today, or whether it will just be dealt with under delegated powers as soon as that can be accommodated. And secondly, there are of course occasionals in place in respect of these premises. So they're currently trading under one that covers the period up to the, I think it's the 9th, sorry, I'm just looking at that minutes here. So the one that's trading under at the moment ends on the 19th of June. And actually we got confirmation yesterday of a further one having been granted for the period 17th June to 30th June. And then there's still another one pending covering the period up to the 14th of July. So it's just a thought. I just wonder if and when the premises license is confirmed, the board might then recall the occasionals as already granted, and the applicants, I would suggest, perhaps would withdraw the one that's still pending before the board, so that there's not two licenses subsisting at the same time, if you like. So Mr. Sterling is on the call as well, just if there's any practical questions, which he would be happy to address, and I'd be happy to take any questions as well.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kewan. Yeah, thank you for that. I don't know why I'm getting an echo here. I don't know if I'm doing anything wrong with my mic, but I'm coming through quite. Do I sound quite loud to you, yourselves? I'm okay. Councillor Fotheringham.
Yeah, it's a question for the Mrs. Corletto, convener. Thank you. Ms. McEwen's mentioned the occasional licences, Mrs. Corletto. If we grant this application today, then the occasional licences then can be withdrawn. Is that the case?
No, if we grant the application today, the confirmation application will have to be, well, I think we have the confirmation application in, so that would be done under a delegated authority. So everything should be in order if this is granted today. Yeah, sorry if that's your question.
Thank you. No further questions, convener. Just a comment, if I may.
Yes, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, again, another local business that we need to support. This has always been a flexible board, and I'm just going to say good luck to them and move to grant.
Yeah, thanks for that, Councillor Fotheringham. Yes, I was going to say that as well. It's great to see these businesses popping up now in rural areas. You know, it's brilliant for tourism, and especially because it's in my area as well. But yeah, thanks, Mrs. McEwen, for your presentation. And if Nikki manages to get all the licenses sorted out, then that would be great under delegated powers. That would be good. And we can just go ahead and grant this one today if everyone's in agreement with that.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you, Mrs. McEwen. That's your licence sorted out for today. Thank you very much.
And if it's okay, I'll phone you later after this.
That's right.
That would be helpful. Thanks, Nikki.
Thanks very much, everyone. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, John. Moving on now to the Bleaching Football Club. Is there anyone from Bleaching Football Club to talk on this one, Fiona?
Yes, convener. We have Mr. Clark Reynoldsson in the call today. And I think maybe we want to hear from maybe the LSO, Mrs. Coletto first regarding an update on the layout plan on this one.
That would be great, Fiona. Thank you.
It's come to light that they're applying for 2 porta cabins to be placed within the grounds. At the time of the original application, there was only 1 porta cabin, but on discussions with Clark and Kevin, they were going to be putting 2 porta cabins in. So it was agreed that they would amend their application to incorporate the 2 applications. The porta cabins were meant to arrive in June, and an amended layout plan was meant to have been supplied to us by then. But to date, we haven't received the amended plan. I understand from Clark, one of the porta cabins hasn't arrived yet. So again, I'm not sure if this is one that you may wish to defer until the plans are in place. But it's a matter for yourselves, and maybe you should hear from Clark in regard to that. Mr. Dunno, you're on mute.
Yeah, if we could hear some more information if these porta cabins are going to be in place, that would be good.
Mr. Reynoldsson, are you in the call to speak?
Fiona, it's just to confirm, I've got Mr. Reynoldsson on my mobile phone. I have to put him on to loudspeaker. Is that okay with the board?
That would be great, thank you.
Mr. Reynoldsson, you're on loudspeaker and the board asking you to give you an overview to the application.
Well, thank you very much. My name's Clark Reynoldsson. I'm the recently appointed community manager for Bleaching City Football Club, and I was responsible for the submission of the applications in relation to the variation to the football club's licence.
Okay, can I just ask you about the porta cabins? What was actually confusing myself was the off sales that you were preparing to do, because obviously you can't actually take drink into the football ground. Was this a shop that you were going to open maybe when the football wasn't on? Could you maybe elaborate on that one?
Yeah, no, I think that was maybe slightly wrongly communicated by myself. The off sales element, and it might be completely wrong, it was because one of the porta cabins has a decking area, and initially there was no thought process for anybody consuming alcohol on that decking area. But I had a further conversation with somebody in the department, and they did suggest it would be worth, if it was to be considered, just putting it into the application. So that's all that was. There would be no drinks for sale for consumption off the premises. It was just if the decking area was allowed to be used for consumption, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know what the board members are thinking on this one. I'm thinking it needs to be a wee bit more work on this application. The board members agree with this? I agree with, the need a bit more, a layout plan, I think once the things are on site, I can't really visualise it myself. Councillor Whiteside, do you want to come in on this for me?
Yeah, obviously take Ms Carletto's advice, but it looks like the application isn't quite ready to be approved at the moment. It might be another one that we need to defer, so we'll have all the information.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Councillor Clark or Councillor Brace was first here, and we've got Councillor Gregg. I'll go with Councillor Brace first. Thanks, Kenny. Can you come in now?
Yes, thanks, convener. As a former Brecon councillor, I've watched what's been going on at Glebe Park since the Community Trust took over. Really encouraging stuff. Huge asset to the community. And I would agree that we should defer this until further work can be done, and hopefully then we might be in a position to progress them.
Okay.
I wonder, could Clark maybe tell us a wee bit though beforehand what implications there might be for the community trust regarding a deferment?
Okay, can you answer that question for us, Mr. Clark?
Yeah, I just want to explain a wee bit more about the two facilities. One of the facilities is already in situation and has been there for a number of months and been completely renovated. The idea of that building initially was for the use of the community Monday to Friday for various clubs and groups, etc. And then we were looking to utilise it for hospitality on a Saturday at match day. Now, we then received further funding for the second porta cabin, which again, it would be a community-led building from Monday to Friday. And I was asked to withdraw the initial application for the licensing aspect on the Saturday, and then to resubmit a further application covering the two buildings. But unfortunately, one of the buildings isn't even on site yet. So the implications from the licensing aspect from an alcohol-related matter will have no impact on the trust at all, because there was never going to be any events concerning alcohol for the trust, because, as I say, it's for community meetings Monday to Friday, etc. With there would only be the Saturday that when the club would be using those two facilities. But I submitted the initial report with the plans for the first one, and then I was told to forget about that one and resubmit one covering both the buildings, and the second building is not with us as yet. We have had a surveyor in drawing plans up, etc., and these have all been submitted also. So that's the position with the buildings, and as I say, it wouldn't have any great impact. Thanks for your comments, Kenny, on the community trust, because there wouldn't be any alcohol in relation to their usage. But we can't use the building until we've got some authority for building control for public use anyway.
That's great. Thanks for clarifying that, because it was a wee bit confusing. Councillor Gregg, do you want to come in next? A comment or a question?
It was just a comment more than a question, but I think considering that the second porta cabin isn't even in situ yet, I think there's still quite a bit of work to be done with relations to this. So yeah, I'd move to defer it to the next.
That's great. Councillor Clark?
I think it's all been said, convener, but I would move to defer it.
Right. I think, Mr. Clark, I think we'll defer at the moment until it's similar to another applications, till we get everything in place properly, and get it sorted out, and then you can have your corporate events and your maybe be able to get like our growth again. I'm being a wee bit biased here. Football clubs. I know you have your your boxes that the men go to and things. So as I say, well, hopefully you'll be able to do that soon. So at the moment we're going to defer this application. Is that okay with everybody on the board? Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. Thank you very much. And Nikki will probably be in touch with yourself to get your things all sorted out for you. Okay.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you very much for your help. Thank you.
Well, see you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Now, what are we moving on to? Next on the list is, sorry, excuse me, I'm going back on old-fashioned paper this morning because my screens weren't going the right way. Right, okay, this is quite a big application. This is DeVito's in Arbroath. Mrs. Hood, are you going to talk on DeVito's today?
Councillor Journal, yes, I am. And I was going to suggest if you have other people waiting in the lobby, deal with them first, because this will be a fairly lengthy one.
Okay. No, I think it's okay. We'll just deal with it, convener, at the moment. Just to make the board aware, there is an objection from Police Scotland dated the 20th of May, which is with your papers. There is also 4 other objections from residents, and there is one objector, Louise Harrison, in the call today who wishes to address the board. alongside the agent Janet Hood is Kevin from DeVito's in the call, and omitted from the report is just to let members know what the current hours are at the moment. So the current hours for DeVito's is on a Friday 7 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. On a Saturday, the current hours are 7 p.m. till 2:30 a.m. And on a Sunday, the current hours are 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. Okay, convener.
Right, thank you. I think we'll hear from Mrs. Hood first. If you want to explain the building and operating and everything for that, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, convener. It's usual to hear the objectors first, but I'm perfectly happy to go first in whichever order you decide. I would like to say congratulations on your appointment as convener and welcome to the new members, and looking forward to appearing before you in the following years. I'm representing my clients KWS Property Limited and their sole director Kevin Sivright, who is here today. The application before you is to extend the core hours in the following manner: from Friday evenings 7 o'clock to Saturday mornings at 3:30, from Saturday lunchtimes at 1:30 to Sunday mornings at 3:30, and from noon on Sunday to Monday mornings till 2 o'clock. In addition, my clients want to be able to welcome children aged 14 and 15 and young persons 16 and 17 to attend premises to enjoy events which from time to time take place from the start of core hours till 10 o'clock at night. This is quite common in nightclubs, that they offer children an opportunity to come to hear bands or specific DJs or have an under 18s event. The premises would, if used for the entertainment of persons under the age 18, would be shut for 60 minutes to ensure that all young people have left before opening the nightclub at 11 o'clock. Now, I made an error in the application for which I apologise. I stated that under 18s would be in the premises until 10:30, not 10 o'clock. They must have vacated the premises by 10:30, and I don't think my application was clear. My clients want to offer club meetings. They've been approached by a number of clubs, in particular the local football club, asking if they can supply a pre-game pint and some snacks, hot pies, bacon rolls, etc. And they've made a tentative agreement with a food provider to do this should this part of the application be granted. They would also like to open and provide a venue for the Arbroath Blues event as and when that takes place. Now, my client owns and operates DeVito's nightclub Arbroath and has been involved in the running of the premises for over 10 years. The premises are the premier nightclub in Arbroath. They are well run and they provide a safe and popular venue for young and old alike. I am told that the customer ages range from 18 to 60 plus, with everyone enjoying the music and the experience. The premises operate with virtually no issues, as I hope to be able to demonstrate to you today. As you have been described, there are 4 emails of objection from people I presume to be neighbours, a positive representation from the LSO, Ms Carletto, a positive representation from your Honours Environmental Health Service, and a letter of objection from Police Scotland. I'll start with the individual emails, and I'm happy to accept all of these emails and deal with them, as they are from members of the public, even if they fail in the legal niceties. My clients agree that they should be heard without technical objection. Now, the first person I was going to be dealing with is Mrs. Shearer. She commences with the statement that she received a small note through her door relating to the application. Now, the application was properly advertised on your Honours website and it had a site notice. This implies to me that the unknown deliverer of the note, who has also delivered notes to other persons, was trying to drum up objections. This happens regularly when people live in the same flatted development. The email states that she's lived in the 38 years, and she's bothered, as I indeed would be bothered, by trouble on the street. She says there are fights, broken glass bottles, people urinating on the post box, the sound of music, and people banging on the doors. Now, my clients advise as follows, They deny that these issues are caused by the operation of their premises. They are aware there can be disturbance on the street. Groups of youth, now this has been brought to your attention before, those of you who are previous board members, groups of youths, both male and female, frequently sit or stand on the small wall which bounds the flatted property opposite the club. These youths frequently shout, swear, drink, eat takeaway food, drop litter, including glass containers, and play music through boom boxes. My client's staff have observed people going behind the post office and into the close of residential premises. They don't really know what they're doing there. Some of these people have been refused entry to my client's premises, or they have been barred from the premises. Some are underage and would not be permitted entry to the premises, and some are completely unknown to my clients. My clients have on several occasions requested the police remove or deal with people sitting on this wall, and this has only on one occasion when a female police officer actually removed a boombox from one of the youths, which was causing disturbance, I have no doubt, to residents in the flats. My clients have also on several occasions requested the police attend within the flats, which are designed for all ages, as has been stated, due to loud music and noises of fighting coming from within the flats. They have observed police attending on occasions. Of course, they don't know the outcome of these attendances, but I'm sure that my friends in the police will be able to comment on this. My clients regularly advise police of these matters and have discussed mechanism for preventing these localised harms with the manager of the residential premises. One of the more obvious solutions would be for the owners of the residential premises to erect a fence or increase the height of the wall so it was not such a tempting place to sit and loiter. This has been suggested and agreed in principle, but unfortunately nothing has occurred. My client stewards are not members of the police and have no locus to deal with matters not directly relating to the management of their premises. The owners of the flats, however, have a duty to make sure that people who are tenants within their properties actually comply with noise regulations, and they have a duty to prevent disturbance to other residents, and I will go on to that later in this presentation. My clients have no locus to deal with matters not directly relating to the management of the premises or any queue relating to the premises. They cannot be insured so to do, and they cannot carry out Police Scotland duties. Lastly, the doors are closed to prevent noise escape, and during the course of the evening, of course, there are always stewards on the doors to permit or bar entry, to open the doors to let people in or out. This particular objector says people kick the doors. They would be asked to desist or moved on as possible. As the stewards are placed outside the doors, I think that it's highly unlikely that this is happening. And if they did behave in such a manner and did not desist, the police would be called, as is permitted within the licensing legislation. Unfortunately, Mrs. Shearer has produced no evidence to show that all or any of the matters complained of were caused by my clients or the operation of their business. The route, the Millgate route, is one which leads from other parts of the town to substantial housing at the back and the other way round. People cross back and forth within that route at all times of the day, and in particular in the evening. Do you want to give Mrs. Shearer an opportunity to comment on that now, or do you want me to continue to the end?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Hood, Mrs. Shearer's not in the call today. It's only Mrs. Harrison.
I beg your pardon. Thank you, I misheard. I do apologise. The next letter of objection I'm dealing with is Hugh and Shirley Docherty, who also received a slip of paper from person or persons unknown. I'm not going to obviously go into the fact of notice. At the end, they say, at the end of the evening on the premises, and I would like to say, at the end of an evening on the premises, the following occurs. The DJ asks people to leave quietly. Staff at the cloakroom ask people to leave quietly. Door staff and stewards within the premises do the same. And if patrons clump at the door or in front of the premises, they are asked to move on by stewards. My clients do their best to ensure people leave the vicinity, but they are not permitted to manhandle or shove people out of the way on the street. There is no reasons to suppose from the comments made by this couple that anybody would be hanging around in the street in Arbroath in front of the premises till 5 in the morning. The daytime hours requested are of opening are to permit external club activities, as I have described, and not nighttime activities. The matters that they raise concerning people's personal spend and drinking, I'm afraid to say, are not relevant to you. This is something that is permitted in law. People can spend their money as they choose, and they are entitled to drink alcohol in this country. The comments made about the notification, as we know, were in place and on the website. And again, I have to say, no evidence was produced by Mr. and Mrs. Doherty to show that all or any of the matters complained of were raised by my clients or the operation of their business. My clients refer issues to the police concerning the behaviour of some residents in the flats and by people gathering there who have no connection whatsoever with their business. Miss Harrison complains about noise, swearing, drunkenness, fighting and lack of sleep. She comments that the area is, in terms of occupancy, mostly residential. And I think if you looked at numbers, of course, you'd have to say that, because there is a substantial flatted development for mixed ages immediately across from the premises, and there are people living above premises on the whole of the Millgate Street. There are large numbers of residential developments immediately further up the street and behind the residential unit. So I'm quite happy to say that that is the case. But in planning terms, it is a mixed business and residential area. Again, Ms. Harrison has not produced any evidence to show all or any of the matters she complains of were made by my clients or the operation of their business, and my clients refer to the issues they have raised with the police concerning the behaviour of some residents in the flats and people gathering on the little wall outside the flats which have no connection with their premises. Do you want to permit Ms. Harrison to come in just now, or would you prefer me to continue?
Mrs. Burns, do you want to
you're
come
on
in?
mute.
Mrs.
Councillor
Burns?
Dunno, you're on mute.
Is that for Mrs. Harrison to speak?
Wouldn't go off mute there. Mrs. Hood, if you could just finish of the times we're not, if you could finish and then
I'm just trying to be polite. I beg your pardon.
Right, thank you.
Sorry. Scott Edwards has referred to public nuisance and makes reference to noise when the premises are closing. Again, there is no evidence produced to show that any noise are caused by my clients' actions, and they do take particular care to attempt to move people on. They ask people to leave quietly, and as we go through my presentation, I think we will see that this does indeed occur. Police Scotland's letter of objection. I'm going to go through page by page, paragraph by paragraph. And I'm sorry, I have to do this. Page 1 sets the scene. And as you know, I've amended the under 18 timings for attendance at under 18 events. And for that error, I have apologised. Page 2, paragraph 1 of the objection. The police seem to suggest that because the applicant had a similar application before you, but not the same application, they shouldn't be making this one, but they are entitled to make this application. It is different to the one which was made last year, and so that particular comment is irrelevant. Page 2, paragraph 2. The police comment on a conversation they had with a resident in the flats. Now, of course, this is hearsay and is not admissible in any terms, but I have to comment on it because it's in the letter. Police Scotland have failed to establish any link with the operation of my client's premises and have failed to mention the fact they have on several occasions been called by members of my client's staff to deal with parties, noise, foul language, fighting coming from within the flats and from persons sitting on the wall immediately opposite. My client is, however, pleased that Police Scotland directed the resident to contact and to look up Tell Me Scotland to ascertain what was being applied for in this case. Page 2, paragraph 3 of the objection. Police Scotland state they've interrogated their innkeeper system, which I understand relates solely to licensed premises, and also the command and control system, which I believe relates to general crime. From the 13th of August, they did this, they say, from the 13th of August last year to the 19th of May this year at 11:40. That's the day before the letter of objection was written. My clients are actually delighted that they have recorded no incidents on either system purporting to relate to the premises since the 12th of December last year. This shows, in my opinion, and I think it would have to be everybody's opinion, that there have been no complaints or issues this year, i.e. over a period of 1 week short of 6 months. This is great news and demonstrates how well my clients and their staff and their stewards are running the premises. It's almost extraordinary that late night premises have received no issues in this time, and I think my clients should be commended for this. Page 2, paragraph 4 of the objection. Police Scotland advised there were 12 incidents and 23 inspections of the premises recorded on the innkeeper system and 27 incidents recorded on the command and control system. However, they failed to refer to all of those incidents. Now, I'm presuming that the word inspections mean normal walkthroughs. The police walk through virtually every licensed premises, not just in Angus, but across the land. And so to say inspections, which implies something considerably more serious, is really trying to mislead your honours. What this happens is the police go in, they have a look round, they make sure that there aren't drunks, they make sure the premises are reasonably tidy, they check there are a reasonable number of stewards, they look to see that things like signage, etc. is in place, although that is an LSO's role, and then they report back or otherwise accordingly. So I think we have to look at the word inspections and not take it as a particularly serious thing. I beg your pardon. They're welcomed by my clients. They are welcomed by the stewards. My client says they have a good relationship with the police on the street. They believe that having police coming into the premises is a good thing. It shows that they are working with appropriate authorities, and it shows people on the premises that they are serious about monitoring and keeping people safe. Page 2, paragraph 5 of the objection. The police advised that of the incidents recorded, there were 5 noise nuisances and antisocial behaviour of patrons coming and going from the premises, but they failed to data record what these complaints were, when they were alleged to have been made, how they linked them to the premises, what evidence they have that related them to the premises. My clients are completely unaware of the majority of these matters that are suggested. Now, I'm going to hold this up. I said to my clients, what I want from you is a list of your records that you keep. My clients keep records every night, all the way through, every time they are opened. These are open for perusal by the police. They are open for perusal by the LSO. And should any of your honours care to join, to ever come to the club to have a look at them, they would be perfectly willing to show them to you. I have gone through these, and I haven't, you'll be pleased to hear I have not referred to them at all within my presentation, but I have gone through them just to make sure that they are what you would expect to see. And they are. They say Janet Hood was prevented from entering the premises because she was drunk. Janet Hood was caught with drugs in the toilet and was the police were telephoned. They mention things that have occurred. They record them carefully, and they make sure that if the police are advised, that is noted. And this does occur because the only way, and the police encourage this across the country, Police Scotland encourages this across the country, the only way premises can make sure that they are safe and well run is by working in tandem with the police. If they find that somebody like that awful woman, Janet Hood, is misbehaving within the premises, taking drugs, fighting or doing something else, it is reported and properly recorded. And my clients are happy to do this because they feel that this is something that benefits everybody, including themselves.
Right, Mrs. Heath, I think we've got all the information, because obviously we'll have the papers as well. We'll have everything in detail, and you've explained it really well. I don't know whether the board want to ask questions just now to yourself, or if they want to hear from Mrs. Harrison, and then we can have questions after that. Can the board advise me if they want to continue to hear Mrs. Harrison first, or if they want to ask any questions? Councillor Whiteside.
Thanks, convener. I've got a question for Mrs. Hood, but I'm happy to let Mrs. Harrison come in first if that's preferable.
I think it would be good, and then we can have questions after that, and sum up what the situation is.
Convener, I'm terribly sorry. I have got one or two other points that perhaps I ought to make. I can try and condense it if you like.
Yeah, if you could. It's just time's wearing on a wee bit, and people.
I know, I'm very sorry, but it was a very long police report. My duty to my client is I have to deal with it forensically, not generally. I'm going to try and whiz through this. On the matter of noise, my clients admit in the past there was noise escape from the premises that was drawn to their attention by environmental health. It appeared that noise was escaping from the inner doors. They have changed the inner doors, and they've changed the system that people enter the premises and leave the premises. Your environmental health officers are pleased that this has now been resolved and have said so to you. The police commented that on one occasion they visited the premises. This was during the day, during lockdown. The doors were open, no music was playing. This was not lockdown, it was open lockdown, when businesses were encouraged to try to do something other than what they normally were to at least keep themselves trading. My clients tried this, but unfortunately it didn't work. The premises aren't really suitable to be a bar, but the doors were open. They were supposed to be open. No music was playing, and I very much doubt much sound could have been heard from within the premises. It was people talking and laughing within the first floor, which is a considerable distance from the door, as I'm sure your honours are well aware. Sorry, I'm whizzing through this. Private landlords have a duty to take responsibility for antisocial behaviour that happens in and around their premises. That's a quote directly made from the Shelter website. It means if tenants are causing trouble, the landlords have to put a stop to it. Otherwise, they can find that their rent is no longer able to be collected until they resolve the situation. This might be something that happens. The various comments, and I do need to go through this. On the 12th of December, a female had come into the premises, acted in an aggressive manner towards a male, and they were both asked to leave by the head steward, Andy. This is exactly what your honours would expect to occur. The fact that whatever happened wasn't captured on CCTV, every single thing in the world can't be caught on CCTV. The clients behaved appropriately, and I don't know why this is in here. The second one, stewards were made aware by other youths of a youth who had left the premises but said to other youths he was going to try to get and take ketamine. My clients immediately contacted the police because they were worried about the safety of this child, and well, not child, this young person, and the person was eventually taken home by the police. That's what you would expect. The next comment, number of youths were ejected. They were displaying aggression. There'd been a minor disagreement between the parties. My clients will not tolerate that behaviour, and they took appropriate action. Again, I don't know what this is brought before you. My clients cannot be expected that a scrap might erupt from a minor disagreement. My client, Kevin Sivright, went out to remonstrate with the people in the street. The police then asked his name, which he gave. They asked who he was. He said he was the premises licence holder and manager. They then demanded he give his home address, which he refused. He absolutely refused to give his home address in these circumstances. And had I been standing beside him, I'd have said, don't give it, because that puts him at risk from people who might come to his home and cause harm to him and his family. Why the police tried to insist on that is beyond my understanding.
Yeah, Mrs. Hood, I know there's lots of instances there, and I know that you want to, explain them all, but we do have them in the papers just now, and we do realise that the club is very well run and it has got all security and everything in place. We have dealt with DeVitos before in this board, so we are aware of the premises. everyone will be getting taken into consideration, all the comments that you've made. But if we could maybe move on to hearing from Mrs. Harrison, and then we can have some more questions after that. Would that be okay?
Yeah, that's okay.
Convener.
Right.
Sorry.
I'm happy with that as long as I have an opportunity. If the police bring up matters within their letter of objection, I get an opportunity to answer one by one police comments.
Sorry, Fiona, do you want to come in there?
Yes, Convener, I just want to remind members that there was a procedure sent to all members, just because we've got a lot of new members on the board today. So Miss Magson sent you a procedure for dealing with these major applications. So if you do refer to that when we're dealing with this one, so the convener has invited the applicant, Mrs. Hood, and she has now addressed and spoke to the committee. So we now move on to the objection. So there's an objection from the Police Scotland, and we've got one of the objectors here, Mrs. Harrison. I don't know if Mrs. Burns wants to come in at this point, or do we just want to move on to hear from both objectors?
Yeah, I think maybe to speak to Mrs. Harrison, because obviously people are at home and they're on Teams and, you know, their own computers and things. I think it would be nice to save them having to sit, you know, for hours. It would be good if we could let them come on. Would that be okay?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Fiona. Mrs. Harrison, can you come on now? Do you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you fine, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Can you come on now and let us know what your thoughts are on this application?
Well, I am disappointed to hear that they wish to extend their opening hours due to, obviously, they want to make more money, which is fair enough. We all want to make more money. Because at the present moment in time, whether it's inside the nightclub or outside the nightclub attracts a very unsavoury element to that. And if you want evidence, I have photographs that I can send of the drug paraphernalia that gets thrown over my fence. I'm not very well at the moment. I have a severe problem, and I have my carer with me, who I have briefed on this subject, and who is also very aware of this subject, because he's stayed here on nights to calm me down after my door has been almost kicked in and my garden has been decimated. His name is Ross Sutherland.
Okay. Is that okay?
Madam Chairman, I have to object to this, that Mr. Sutherland is not part of what I have had an opportunity to consider. And I really...
okay, that's fine. You object away, my love.
On behalf
you
of my...
object away because you don't live here, okay? You live in a nice house.
Folks, you can't really argue on a board meeting. Fiona, is it possible for Mrs. Harrison to have someone to speak in her behalf, or is that legally not feasible?
I think if you want to take legal advice from Mrs. Burns, she's got her hand up.
Okay. Can you come in and let me know what the situation is here?
Yes, thank you. Yes, it is possible to nominate a representative. However, that representative would require to speak to matters which had already been notified and not to introduce new matters, because Mrs. Hood and her client require to have had fair notice of matters which are being brought up. So if it relates to his own experience, then that is not information which has already been put into the ken of the applicant.
Okay, thanks for that. Mrs. Harrison, would you like to take some questions from the board? If any of the board have any questions for yourself?
I have no problem with answering questions at all.
Okay, can any of the members of the board, Councillor Whiteside, is that an old hand or is that a new hand?
Thanks, Convener. Well, I still have questions for Mrs. Hood.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Harrison just now? No, I can't see any hands up at the moment. Okay. Thanks for your presentation, Mrs. Harrison. I think the board actually get all your comments. They do take what we have said. And Councillor Whiteside now wants to have a question for Mrs. Hood. Okay.
Thanks, convener. Mrs. Hood, thanks for your presentation. A lot of information there. I think that the elephant in the room is that we're not being given a clear reason why the board should further extend the opening hours. As you know, they're already out with the board policy. They've been given flexibility in the past to extend their opening hours beyond board policy. The policy is due for review soon, and at this time, with resident and police objections, I'm not sure we've been given any clear valid reasons why we should extend it even further.
Thank you very much, Councillor Whiteside. I wasn't permitted to finish my presentation, so I wasn't able to get onto that, and I do apologise. Normally, I would have finished with this because I would have thought that would have been the appropriate place to do it, and I apologise unreservedly. As you're aware, the nightclub industry has suffered probably more than any other part of the hospitality industry, in that it has been shut almost continuously for 2 years. The premises have benefited from a slight addition to policy by half an hour, and my clients are extremely grateful that you have permitted this to occur. My clients are trying to make their premises work. Unfortunately for them, not for the board and not for other people, the board has been extending the hours which they have permitted public houses to operate. And the differential between the closure of certain public houses and my client's business has gone from what used to be an hour and a half. Now that gives nightclubs, one, an opportunity to get people in earlier. Two, it gives them an opportunity to have people who perhaps haven't drunk so much elsewhere in earlier. And three, gives them an opportunity to make some money, because that is the purpose of running hospitality businesses. Now, the next move that happened was the differential was moved from an hour and a half generally to an hour, and then it has been moved to half an hour. Now, this does cause my clients severe difficulty. When you're running licensed premises such as my clients, you have a very heavy series of costs. One of them is that they have to have approximately 20 members of staff on every night. They have between 7 and 9 qualified stewards on every night. They have first aiders on every night. They have to pay for DJs. They have to pay for bands. And they have a far higher level of security, monitoring and management expected of them, and quite rightly expected of them in a nightclub situation, than you would expect to have in any normal bar, hotel or other type of premises operating not just within the community of Angus, but within the community of Scotland. These costs have to be made up somewhere to enable people to continue to offer what is a superb and well-managed service within Arbroath. Because if they don't get people in and they don't get people staying, then the spend, of course, goes down and it becomes economically unviable. And COVID is something that this board has mentioned on more than one occasion, and you are willing to look to extend hours for certain premises to enable them to recover from COVID. And I would hope that, given these premises haven't had a single complaint from any quarter in the last 6 months, that you would see that this is a reasonable request to make, because the extra hour being asked for is such that it won't impact hugely on the community because of the way they manage the premises. They have good dispersal policies, they have good management property policies, they have extremely good monitoring of their customers, they turn away troublemakers, they bar troublemakers, they have a superb relationship with the Marine camp just outside the town. They meet regularly with the Regimental Sergeant Major there. They come up with strategies to prevent trouble between the soldiers and the locals, because these are issues which I'm sure you're aware of, gone on from time immemorial. And they work closely with the police on the ground and your honour's officers. My clients really run exemplary premises, and for that case, I would move the grant. And I do understand, and I do apologise, Councillor Whiteside, that I didn't start with that part of it. Thank you.
Brenda,
you're on mute.
Councillor Gregg, would you like to have a question for?
Yes, a couple of questions. First, I'd like to thank you for your presentation and all the points that you've raised. I don't think I or many of the other people on the panel have any objection to how well DeVitos may or may not be run. And there's comments from the licensing officer on the standard of the refusal books and things like that, which I believe all has to be commended. And it's so good to see a licensed premises operated to such a high standard. However, for applying to increase your licensing hours beyond what's in the current policy, I haven't, if I'm honest, heard too much to say why you should do that other than how well your premises is run. So questions I'd like to ask is, has you or your client put forward any suggestions to try and mitigate any problems that might then happen outside, which obviously you're out of control, so perhaps limiting your entry beyond a certain point in the evening, a last entry, and other over and above what you already do?
Now, I haven't discussed last entry with my client, and I wonder if you might give me, I wonder if we could have a 5-minute break while I telephone him.
The board should have a breakout at the moment anyway to discuss just discuss things at the moment. Is that possible, Fiona?
I could maybe speak with Mrs. Burns. We haven't heard yet from Police Scotland. They've got their objection to address the objection. Mrs. Burns?
Yes, it would be appropriate, I think, to hear the other representations, and then perhaps for a delay at that point, and then an opportunity to sum up and ask questions and so on thereafter.
That would be appreciated, Mrs. Burns, because obviously we've got new members on the board, and I think that we need to discuss this with them just to make sure that the whole of the board, understands legally where this is going. Okay, thank you. If we could hear from, I'm sure if it's at James Gordon or Gordon James, but sorry, I think it's James Gordon. Are you there?
Good morning. Good morning, Fiona. Good morning. Hear
from Police, please, thank you.
Thank you. Police Scotland received the application for the variation, and as Mrs. Hood has alluded to, we submitted a letter of objection. I can go through the letter of objection and read it to you if you care, or I could just pick up the relevant points that Mrs. Hood has made in terms of her objection.
Even if as briefly as you could, that would be great. Thanks.
Okay, the reason, Mrs. Hood, page 2, paragraph 3, the reason we made mention to the last variation was because it was within the last 5 months, and it was a reminder to the board that this is out with board policy, what the application is. In terms of the not making any reference to any complaints of antisocial behaviour being reported by the club of the flats opposite, the reason there's no mention of that within our report is because the occupants of the flat opposite haven't made any applications to ourselves. The club have made an application, DeVitos have made an application, so we are speaking about incidents that we can directly relate and link to the premises. There was no way Police Scotland's intentions to mislead the board in terms of inspections. It's a term that Mrs. Hood said up and down the country is used. Police Scotland do go into all premises, and they are called inspections. We do this every weekend across the country. The police are tasked with going in inspections. She's rightly pointed out 12 incidents. Now, incidents are different because something's happened causing the police to be there, whereas inspections are inspections. Page 3, in terms of Mr. Sivright refusing to provide his address, the advice that Mrs. Hood would suggest to him would be, I would respectfully say, was wrong, because in terms of Section 13 of the Criminal Procedure Scotland Act 1995, if someone has witnessed a crime or an offence being committed, the police can ask that person for their name and remain with them until their identity is established, and failure to do so is a criminal offence. Now, someone working in the licensing trade for so long, I would have thought they would have been aware of this, and Mr. Sivright should have given the police his name and address at the time when the police officers were asking. Mrs. Hood has alluded to, there's been no incidents in the last coming up for 6 months at the premises, so will have little impact on the community. Again, increasing the reason for this is because police officers are regularly tasked to stand outside the nightclubs for when patrons are leaving, so they actually prevent any of these crimes from occurring and do their best to move people on. So that's regularly done, and by increasing the terminal hour for the premises would impact on the policing provision for the whole of Angus policing area, the service it can provide to the wider community. Policing resources are already stretched due to increased demands on the service as a whole. As documented within our objection, the premises already attracts violent disorder and antisocial behaviour, including drunken disorder and noise nuisance. Intoxication through the consumption of alcohol is a prevalent factor in the high proportion of incidents and violence attributed to the premises. Extending the core hours would allow further hour of alcohol consumption on the premises could and is likely to contribute to the increase of intoxication of patrons and associated disorder by patrons both inside and outside the premises. I've also, on the call today, we've got Inspector David Gibson, who is the locality inspector and witnesses far better than I do on a Friday and Saturday, and his teams. So should your board have any questions, the locality inspector is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thanks for that. I just want to, this is for a variation of this licence. It's not actually going for a new premises licence, so just to note that. Can we have a breakout time now, Mrs. Burns? Or is there any, do you want to have questions first for Police Scotland? Do the board want to have questions for Police Scotland first, or do we want to have a conversation?
I think it depends on what is most convenient, as long as there is an opportunity to fulfil the process that everyone is entitled to ask and answer questions, and that well, basically, not just in terms of the board, but obviously the objectors as well.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Whiteside.
Thanks, Convener. I was just going to say it might be useful to hear from Inspector Gibson, but he's got his hand up now as well.
Okay. Inspector Gibson is on the call. Can he come on now? Thank you.
Good morning to you all. Thank you for hearing me this morning. So it's not my intention to talk about the letter of objection. It's not my intention to talk about the incidents, but purely I'll keep this brief. What I'm here to talk about is the impact of the increase in hours would have for not only Arbroath, but the wider localities of Angus and the wider communities. So at this particular time, our late shift terminate duty at 0300 hours on a weekend bar Sunday. For me, we would have to provide additional resource from across Angus, which would then have an impact on the policing service delivery across Angus. And as you'll be aware, crime still happens in Angus and we do our best to prevent that. But my concern is that I would have to pull resources across the local policing area. That then presents.
Excuse me, I'm terribly sorry. I wonder if I could interrupt. Can I just clarify that what you're speaking to is information that has already been provided?
It is actually being provided in our notes at the moment, Inspector.
I'm just going to provide one summation then, and I'll finish up because I obviously know your time is precious. that was leading on to the point where just a couple of weeks ago I terminated duty just about 3:20 and came across a disturbance in the Millgate Loan of Arbroath, where night shift officers were in attendance. There was no late shift resilience for them, so if they needed assistance, we'd have to pull that from elsewhere in Angus. And I was that concerned that I wanted to go out and help them as well. So it's just the wider impact of resourcing that I just wanted to touch on, being I'm the locality inspector for Arbroath. But if nobody's got any other questions, I'm happy to draw a conclusion there.
Right, thank you. Councillor Clark, I don't know whether you had a question for the inspector or if you had a question for Gordon James.
Thank you, Chair. But no, I just would like to say that a break would be really helpful to me.
Yes, I thought it might be. Right, thank you very much. Thank you, David Gibson. I think the board are actually, Mrs.
Sorry, convener, before we break, does the board, if you go to item 7 of your procedure, would the board want to ask any questions of the applicant or any person who's objected, which is the police or Mrs. Harrison? Would any board members wish to ask them any questions?
No.
Don't see any hands up, Fiona, thank you.
Mrs. Burns, should we move on to allow Mrs. Hood to conclude with her remarks before we break?
Well, I think Mrs. Hood should also be given the opportunity to ask questions. And so it's really a question of convenience and timing here. So as long as that takes place, unless Mrs. Hood has any objection to a break at this stage in the proceedings.
I think a break would probably benefit everybody at the proceedings, providing I get an opportunity after the break to respond to the police and to answer the questions that councillors have asked me.
Yes, that would be good, Mrs. Hood, because maybe the councillors might have questions after we've had our breakout meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we wish to adjourn a convener for 10 minutes or do you wish 15 minutes?
I think 10 minutes will be enough. Thank you, Fiona.
Okay, so we'll adjourn for 10 minutes. Could the business support please stop the stream?
Right, thank you. Return then to Mrs. Hood. Do you want to sum up on your application, please?
Yes, thank you. I'd first of all like to start with the fact that the police have suggested that the premises attracts violent disorder, antisocial behaviour, drunken disorder and noise nuisance. They have failed to demonstrate this entirely in the objection that they wrote to you on this matter. They have failed to prove any of these comments, which are actually fairly worrying that the police should make comments like this. I have drawn out two matters which might cause you concern. The first one was when a steward ejected a person, a female, and the police were trying to get, for some reason or other, to get the person to move on. And then because they were being videoed, they tried to insist to the steward the person ejected should be put back into the premises, and the steward remonstrated with them and refused to do so, which is quite correct, because they have a duty to ensure that people who are ejected don't get back in. So the fact that police were being videoed has nothing to do with my clients, and their actions, I think, were certainly concerning. The second thing is on Mr. Sivright. Now, the police officer rightly stated that you have to give your name and address when asked by the police, and I have no doubt that that is correct. But in the circumstances where there is a crowd outside who could potentially have caused my client harm by noting his home address, I think my client acted completely appropriately. The police know perfectly well, and the local police know perfectly well, who Mr. Sivright is. He identified himself as being the premises licence holder and manager, and this matter could have been dealt with in a manner which would not have been likely to cause him harm. And I stick by my statement that had I been there, I would have said to Mr. Sivright, no, do not give your address in these circumstances, because I think that would be only fair. Now, I have spoken to my client, and they do have a soft option, which is basically that no entry is permitted to the premises after 1:30. This is because the premises are usually full by then. They know that they have their full complement of stewards, and to be perfectly truthful, they don't want people coming in after that time because they've probably been elsewhere too long and may have had more than enough to drink. The police state that they are frequently outside DeVito's. Well, in actual fact, they're not frequently outside DeVito's. My clients have been asked to monitor this because I explained that to them. And the police are there on occasion, but not nearly as often as they are suggesting. Inspector Gibson brought the fact to you that there may not be sufficient police in the area to deal with matters. Well, this is actually not a matter for the licensing board. It is a matter for the Police Scotland to take up with their funders. This is not something that you require to take into account, and it does not form part of the reasons for refusal for any application which may be before you. It was interesting that the inspector then went on to say that at 3:20, this is some 50 minutes after the premises are closed, he attended at Millgate Loan. Millgate Loan is approximately half a kilometre from the premises. This is whatever happened at Millgate Loan. I think it would be extremely difficult to pin that on something that had to do with my clients. People could have been coming from private parties, they could have been coming from elsewhere, they could have got off a bus from Dundee, it could be anything. And to suggest that that has something to do with my clients and caused him alarm is faintly ridiculous, because to be honest, people disperse and they go home when they have been in licensed premises and they are asked to move on by my clients. And I really don't see what that is. The inspector also said that his shifts change at 3 o'clock. If if the shifts do change at 3 o'clock and new people come on duty at that time, this would imply to me that there would be new police officers on duty raring to go. Therefore, my client's application to 3 o'clock should not actually have any particular impact upon policing within the area. And because new officers would be on board, officers who have gone off shift would not be required to be there. So I think we should be taking that into account. The comments, and I really do want to say this, all the way through, the police comments have basically demonstrated that my clients actually act in exactly the manner that you would expect them to act. They put out people who are difficult. They deal with people. When the spiking, you'll remember there was a spiking furore towards the end of last year when people were frightened of having their drinks spiked in what I'm going to say a traditional manner, which is pouring something into a drink or being jabbed. And my clients took this very seriously. And for a month, they actually searched every person who was allowed in. Handbags, pockets were turned out, all the rest of it, just in case there was any truth. They still do random searches. They do random searches not only at the door, but they do random searches within the property. And that's absolutely imperative to ensure proper running of premises. My clients would benefit from having the extra hour that they have asked for. They are asking for this to catch up from COVID. That has been the reason for Your Honour's decision making in the recent past, and it is something that my clients hope that you will consider today. My clients are good operators. They care for their community. They work hard to prevent harm in the locality. They do not attract violence. They do not attract disorder. They do not attract drunkenness. They prevent people who are of that type getting into their premises. And I move the grant. Thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. Heath. That was very, the explanation of why the premises should have a variation. Any more comments or anything, Fiona? Any more people to?
I think the objector, Mrs. Harrison, has got her hand up. Could just make us aware that it's just any question at this point, Mrs. Harrison.
Does any of the board members have any questions of Mrs. Harrison? No, there doesn't seem to be any questions. I feel that we shouldn't go against the board policy. Maybe.
Sorry, convener. Oh, sorry, it was Inspector James had his hand up just now, but yeah, yes, Inspector Gordon's got his hand up.
Okay.
Thank you, Fiona. I'm only a sergeant, though. I'm not as.
Do you want to have a?
It's just to clarify one point that Mrs. Hood has made. I think there was maybe a misunderstanding there. There's no new police officers that start duty at 3 AM in the morning. The shift pattern finishes, so that our late shift officers would terminate duty at 3 AM, leaving a very skeleton night shift on at that time in the morning. I thought that's what Inspector Gibson was alluding to. I think that was maybe slightly misunderstood there. So just to clarify that point.
Yeah. I say that I feel that DeVito's is a very well run business, and they do take into consideration all the licensing laws, and everything is run smoothly. And my decision is no reflection on themselves. I just feel like the board policy would be broken at this point, and we have to look at doing a new board policy in the future. And until we do do a new board policy, I don't think at the moment that we should allow persons to be after drinking time at 4:45 in the morning. I just think it's not a good way to work at the moment, and I think that it's up to the board members. But I would refuse this variation. I'm quite happy with the actual afternoon hours. I would amend them, but you know, the 3:30 I just feel is too late. Councillor Fotheringham, do you want to come in
Thank you, convener. Thank you very much. Yes, as you know, Councillor Durno, you've been on the board for 5 years, and I've always said that, of course, the policy is there. The policy is there as a guidance. However, this country, this world, has been in a national pandemic for the last 2.5 years, and this is an industry, and I make no apology for this, that has been decimated by the COVID. And when they have been allowed to reopen, they've had so many restrictions, and quite rightly so. I get what the police are saying, and I also hear what Mrs. Hood is saying. I'm not going to agree to a 3:30 extension, but I would move that we give them till 3 a.m. And as I've said before, we can take this away as quick as we can grant it. If the police come back and there's loads of objections and they ask for a licence review, we've got the authority on this board to review that licence and take the hours back to what they were. So I'm going to move. I don't know if I have a seconder or not, but I will move that I grant not to 3:30, but to 3 a.m. Thank you, convener.
Thanks for that advice, Craig. Very welcome. Councillor Gregg, do you want to come in and comment on this, please?
Yeah, similarly to Councillor Fotheringham, I appreciate how difficult it has been, particularly over the past few years, for our nighttime trade and our nighttime economy. I've worked in pubs and bars, I've worked in nightclubs prior to becoming a councillor, so I fully understand the pressures that are placed upon you, and obviously the controllability of what happens physically immediately outside your premises. I understand that. I also have to appreciate that the current policy that we have at the Angus Council with regards to licensing, and as Craig Fotheringham rightly said, that there can be exceptions to be made to that. I would move that we could grant the license with certain conditions attached. For example, if you were to implement if we were to enforce a last entry time, which would then restrict the amount of numbers afterwards, or then if you wanted to, I'd go beyond and go to the 3:30, but with the additional restriction that music must be ceased to be played half an hour prior to closing time. That would then, I believe, allow dispersal at sort of a more general rate, and go with that. But failing that, then I would probably go with what Craig Fotheringham has suggested as well.
Right, thank you for that. Anyone else have any questions or comments to make on this application? Councillor Whiteside.
Yeah, can I just clarify, convener, so that you're proposing that we don't extend the late opening hours, but do extend the daytime hours, and an amendment to that is that Councillor Fotheringham's proposing that we extend the late hours by half an hour.
I think that's what Craig Fotheringham is. Yes, he is. He's nodding. Yes.
That's correct. Councillor Whiteside, is Councillor Fotheringham got a seconder for his amendment?
I'm not sure, Mrs. Anderson.
I'm happy to second that.
Is that Councillor Gregg?
Councillor Melville, sorry.
Melville. And Councillor Durno, do you have a seconder for your motion?
Yeah, my motion is to allow the afternoon hours, but to curb the late evening hours. I don't know if I have a seconder.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, convener. You do have a seconder.
Thank you for that, Councillor Clark.
So are you seconding that, Councillor Clark?
I am indeed, just as you've just said.
And could I, from the Councillor Durno and Councillor Clark, could I have your reasons for the reasons for refusing the 3:30 on the Friday and Saturday?
My reasons are securing public safety.
And mine would be slightly, just an additional one. At the moment, in this moment in time, we have a policy in place, and I wouldn't want to deviate from that right now.
Councillor Whiteside.
I wondered if I could suggest that we also add preventing public nuisance.
Okay.
Is the mover and seconder happy with that as well?
Yes.
So the board, we have got a motion before you, which has been moved by Councillor Durno, seconded by Councillor Clark, that the request for the terminal hours from to 3:30 on a Friday and Saturday be refused, as it's inconsistent with the licensing objectives of preventing public nuisance and securing public safety. It's also refused as it's out with the board policy. The board appeared to be happy with the other part of the hours, which is the additional hours in the afternoon on the Friday, Saturday and the Sunday. The activities they were happy with, and the children and young persons as well. So it's only the terminal hour on the Friday and Saturday that we're dealing with in this motion. Councillor Fotheringham, seconded by Councillor Melville, moved as an amendment that the application be granted and that the terminal hours on a Friday and Saturday be granted to 3 AM. So you're voting for motion and you're voting for amendment. Is all members clear what they're voting for? So I'm going to do a roll call now, and you vote for either motion or amendment. Councillor Durno. Sorry, was that someone?
Yes, I'm sorry, and I don't want to hinder this any longer than we have to. I just wondered if it would be appropriate regarding the motion.
Yes.
Current before policy.
Yes, out with current board policy.
Thank you.
Are you happy with that, Councillors Durno and Clark?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll go to the vote. So Councillor Durno, motion or amendment?
Motion.
Councillor Brace?
Motion.
Councillor Clark?
Motion.
Councillor Fotheringham?
Amendment.
Councillor Gregg?
Amendment.
Councillor Melville?
Amendment.
Councillor Scott?
Amendment.
And Councillor Whiteside?
Motion.
We've got an equality of votes. We have 4 for the motion and 4 for the amendment. Therefore, the convener has the casting vote.
Okay, I'm going for motion. Thank you.
So that's 5 for the motion and 4 for the amendment on the casting vote of the convener. So could we run over the application, please? So the core hours on a Friday is 1900 to 2:30, because the application was refused for the 3:30. The hours for Saturday is 13:30 to 2:30 Saturday. Is that agreed? And Sunday is 12 noon to 2 AM. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
The activities are agreed. Add club meetings within core hours.
Agreed.
The other activities, is that agreed to add to include opening for the Arbroath Blues events?
Yes.
And the children and young persons. Amend times to read from start of core hours. Must vacate the premises by 22:30, and Mrs. Hood amended that.
10 o'clock.
Convener.
Right, that's great. Thank you for everybody that's contributed to this. It's been a tough one, and as I say, we will look forward to seeing you all again.
Sorry, convener, Mrs. Carletto's got her hand up.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Nikki, do you want to come in now?
Yeah, is there going to be a condition added about last admissions, or is that no longer applicable?
I don't think that's applicable now. That was on the amendment, was it not?
Okay, thank you.
Greg that put that one in. Okay. Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Convener, Your Honours. We'll discuss matters with my client with a view to our way forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. Hood, for coming today again. Speak to
Thank
you soon.
you.
Bye. Okay, folks. I think it's delegated powers now, isn't it? Annual functions report, is that right?
Convener, it's item number 8 is just to inform board members that it's request to vary bar 13201 West Port Arbroath. The application has been withdrawn by the agent.
Okay, that's great, thank you. And then we're moving on to the annual functions report now, Fiona.
Yes, correct.
Right, this is just for noting, isn't it, all the different annual functions from 1st of April to 31st of March 2022. You'll keep me right with this one, Fiona.
Yes, if members go to page 73 on their papers, they'll see the recommendation in page 73, and the recommendation is to note the terms of the 4th annual functions report of the Angus Licensing Board for the period 1st of April to 31st of March 2020 as attached in Appendix 1. Mrs. Carletto's got her hand up, convener.
Right, thank you. Can you come in now, please, Nikki?
It's just to let Kevin know that he can leave the meeting if he wants. He doesn't have to sit through the rest of it.
Sorry. Yeah, it's been a long morning. Okay. I think this is licensing finishing apart from the premises which have been surrendered at the end. That's at the end of our notes.
Yeah, convener, if we could go through each item, please. So we've got then item. So is the committee agreed to note item 9?
Agreed. Great.
And if we go on to item 10, convener.
Bear with me, I've got a big pile of papers here. Okay, it's a financial report.
Agreed.
The recommendations agreed on.
Agreed.
Everybody. And item. This is item 11. Here we go. Item 11. Item 11. Personal license that are delegated report to the board. Recommended that the board note the licenses granted under delegated authority as detailed and attachment.
Agreed.
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 I'm nearly there, folks. I'm nearly there. Occasional licenses, delegated approvals.
Agreed.
Agreed.
It's actually easier doing this on screen than it is doing with these papers, isn't it? Sure. Item 13 is premises license, minor variations, delegate approvals.
Agreed.
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 And there's an appendix to the report that it's finished at premises license which have been surrendered. We've got McCall's and Navigate Centre in Arbroath. Have I missed anything, Fiona?
Nope, that's fine, and that's the board finished. Could I maybe ask members if we could have a 10-minute break, because we've got a few members to applicants to phone for civic licensing committee. So if we could stop the live stream and